The aroma of simmering broth curled through the kitchen, filling every corner of the apartment with warmth. The stock had been on the stove for over 2 hours, and I had just reached the point where I would usually skim the top, adjust the seasoning and ladle it into porcelain bowls. It was ironic, really. I had spent years memorizing his tastes, tailoring meals to his preferences. He liked his soup slightly peppery with just enough ginger to cut the greasiness but never too sharp. He didn't like visible oil floating on the surface, so I always skimmed it carefully. Tonight, though, my hands moved automatically, the motions ingrained from repetition, my mind elsewhere. The buzz of my phone on the counter snapped me out of the rhythm. A transfer notification blinked across the screen. Account received 50 million. Note: breakup fee. For a moment, my brain refused to register the number of zeros. Then, before I could even pick up the phone, a voice drifted from behind me, smooth and cold. "Reina, let's get a divorce." The ladle in my hand clattered against the pot. I turned and there he was, Cade Song, leaning lazily against the kitchen doorway. He was in his usual tailored suit, the tie loosened just enough to look casual, the phone still in his hand as if it were an extension of his body. His expression was blank, almost bored, as though he were discussing quarterly figures with a junior manager instead of ending 3 years of marriage. The man I had once loved, the man I had sacrificed for, was now nothing more than a stranger in my kitchen. I wiped my hands deliberately on a towel, forcing calm into every gesture. My gaze drifted back to the phone screen. 50 million. A breakup fee, as if he were paying off a mistress or buying out a contract. In my past life, that number would have gutted me. I would have fallen to my knees, clutched at his sleeves, begged him to stay. I would have cried, humiliated myself, asked what I had done wrong. I would have looked for a reason, as if there had ever been one. But that was then. This time I had already died once for my foolishness. Now I knew better. 50 million, I murmured, folding the towel neatly and setting it on the counter. I turned to face him, my expression calm. President Song is truly generous. For the first time that night, surprise flickered across his face. He had expected tears, perhaps hysteria. Not composure. "Reina." His voice wavered just slightly. "What about you? What about me?" I asked, arching a brow. Should I be overwhelmed with gratitude? Should I throw myself at your feet and sob? His lips parted, but no words came. His eyes darted, unsettled. He wasn't used to me speaking this way. "I thought you would," he began. "Cling." I supplied smoothly. "Like some pitiful wife who doesn't know when to let go?" I tilted my head. "Cade, you think too highly of yourself." My words landed like a slap. His jaw tightened. In my past life I had been exactly that woman. Desperate, pathetic, willing to abase myself just to preserve the illusion of marriage. After discovering his affair, I had cooked his favorite dishes, worn dresses he liked, begged the other woman to leave. I had turned myself into a beggar in my own home. And what had it earned me? Nothing but humiliation. They had schemed together to ruin me, to strip me of dignity at his company's annual meeting. In the end, I had been left with nothing. No home, no money, no pride. I had delivered takeout in the rain just to survive. And then a car accident had ended it all. It was only in death that I realized the truth. They had planned everything from the beginning, even the neat little sum they would grant me as charity. This time I wouldn't play the fool. I picked up my phone and studied the transfer again. "Since you're so straightforward, let me be direct as well. 50 million. Seems a little low." The corner of his mouth twitched. "Don't be greedy, Reina. 50 million is more than enough for you to live on." "Is that so?" I tapped my chin, pretending to ponder. "I don't think so." His brows knitted. "What do you mean?" I set my phone down, stepped closer, close enough to smell the faint cologne he always wore, cedarwood and bergamot, sharp and expensive. "We've been married 3 years. Tell me, Cade, how much do you think my 3 years of youth are worth?" Impatience flared in his eyes. His voice hardened. "Don't play games. 50 million is already too much. You're just an admin making 8,000 a month. In your lifetime you'd never earn this." The words lit a fire in my chest. He had said the same thing before in my past life. To him I had always been a pet, a convenience, a decorative accessory he could discard at will. "What if I refuse?" I asked, voice soft but steady. His face darkened. "Don't refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit." I'm offering you dignity by divorcing you quietly. Make a scene and it will only end badly for you. I smiled, though it didn't reach my eyes. Go ahead. Try me. For a heartbeat, something flickered in his gaze. Doubt, maybe even unease. He studied me as if seeing a stranger. Then he straightened, tucking his phone into his pocket. Think carefully, Reina, he said at the doorway, his voice cool again. Once this starts, there's no turning back. When the door shut behind him, the apartment fell into silence. I leaned back against the counter, my body trembling, not with fear but with exhilaration. Because in that moment, a voice bloomed in my mind. Truth system activated. Host may view a target's true thoughts and 7-day action plan. Current available uses, 3. My heart skipped. I closed my eyes and whispered his name silently. In an instant, words scrolled across the darkness of my mind like a screen. Target, Kate Song. True thoughts. Finally, that foolish woman is gone. 50 million is more than enough to get rid of her. Once she signs, I can be with Nova openly. 7-day action plan. Day 1. Call lawyer to draft divorce papers. Take Nova to view wedding apartments. Day 2. Introduce Nova to parents. Day 3. Accompany Nova to prenatal checkup. Day 4. Attend industry cocktail party. Prepare to go public with the relationship. My breath hitched. Prenatal checkup. Pregnant. So that was it. No wonder the urgency. In my past life I had never known. I had thought it was just an affair. But now with this knowledge I understood. They had plotted everything down to my erasure. A slow, cold smile curved my lips. Very well. This time I would unravel every thread of their plan. Morning light spilled into the living room, gilding the edges of the furniture in pale gold. I sat on the sofa, legs curled beneath me, a pile of documents spread across the coffee table. My eyes traced the neat rows of numbers and property valuations, the financial breakdown Ivy had sent overnight. 800 million in total assets. 600 tied in company shares, 150 in real estate, 50 in diversified investments. According to the law, half of it belonged to me. 400 million. Not 50. Not 100. Certainly not the pittance he had so casually labeled a breakup fee. I leaned back, closing my eyes for a moment. In my past life I hadn't even thought to fight. I'd accepted whatever scraps he offered, thinking love was worth more than money. I had been wrong. Love had been a poisoned chalice, and money had been the antidote I had foolishly refused. Now I would drink deeply. The sound of the front door opening snapped me upright. Cade walked in, his steps brisk, the scent of his cologne announcing him before his voice did. He was dressed immaculately in a slate gray suit, hair combed back, face fresh with energy. His mood was light. He even hummed under his breath as he set his briefcase down. Reina, he said smoothly, as if we were still a normal couple discussing weekend plans. Have you thought it over? I didn't rise. I simply gestured to the coffee table where I had neatly stacked the documents. I have. He gave me a smile that didn't reach his eyes, then pulled out a folder from his briefcase. He placed it in front of me with a flourish. This is the divorce agreement. Take a look. I opened it, flipping through the pages. As expected, the terms were insulting. 50 million to me, a clean break, everything else under his name. My lips curved. There's a problem. He stilled. What problem? According to marriage law, I said calmly, sliding the agreement back across the table, I'm entitled to half the marital assets. Roughly 400 million. His smile cracked. Reina, what are you talking about? I had the company before we married. That's not marital property. True, I allowed. But the appreciation during the marriage is. Your company doubled in value these past 3 years. Do you mean to tell me I had no part in that growth? His eyes hardened, and for a moment, silence stretched between us like a taut wire. Don't push your luck, he said finally, his voice low. I stood slowly, smoothing my blouse, and walked to the window. Push my luck. No, Cade. You're the one who wants a divorce, not me. If you want to cut me off, you'll pay the price. His control slipped. How much do you want? 400, I said evenly. His composure shattered. 400 million? Are you insane? Who do you think you are? I turned, meeting his glare with calm. I'm your wife. Or rather, the wife you're about to discard. His jaw worked and he stalked to the window, staring out at the skyline. His back was stiff, his shoulders tight. The system pulsed in my mind. Target's current thoughts. How did she become so sharp all of a sudden? There's no way I can give her 400. I need to find a way to make her back down, to give it up willingly. A laugh bubbled up in my chest, though I didn't let it show. He thought he could outmaneuver me. When he finally turned back, his expression had softened, his voice carefully measured. Reina, let's not make this ugly. Why ruin what we had? Let's part on good terms. Yes, I said with a small smile. Let's part on good terms. So give me what I'm owed and we'll part that way. His eyes flashed. I can't liquidate 400. The company funds are tied up. Then we'll proceed legally, I said lightly, picking up my phone. I'll call my lawyer now. Wait. His composure cracked again. He reached out, grabbing my wrist before I could dial. Reina, are you really going to escalate this? I slipped my hand free. I'm not escalating anything. You are, by offering too little. He paced, running a hand through his hair. The mask of the cool executive was slipping, panic bleeding through. I can give you 100, he said suddenly. 100 million. That's already my limit. I raised an eyebrow. 200. Not a penny less. His gaze snapped to mine, fury and disbelief colliding in his eyes. Before he could respond, I leaned back on the sofa, crossing my legs, my tone leisurely. And stop pretending, Kate. I know about Nova. The words dropped like a stone in water. His face went pale. What are you talking about? I tilted my head. Your secretary. The one you've been keeping. The one who's pregnant. The living room went silent. The only sound was the faint hum of the refrigerator. His lips moved, but no sound came. He stared at me as if I were a stranger wearing my skin. How did you? His voice cracked. Does it matter? I asked coolly. What matters is that I know. He sank onto the sofa opposite me, running a trembling hand over his face. His arrogance had slipped, replaced by something raw, almost desperate. What do you want? He asked hoarsely. I've already told you. 200 million. And if I refuse? I lifted my phone, scrolling to a saved contact. Then I call the reporters. The City Evening News loves scandals about wealthy families. I'm sure your clients and your parents will be thrilled. His forehead beaded with sweat. His company depended on prestige. His clients were men and women of status, obsessed with appearances. Scandal would be poison. He swallowed hard. Don't act rashly, Reina. We can talk about this. There's nothing more to say, I replied evenly. 200 million. We part ways. That's all. For a long moment he was silent, his chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. Finally he nodded once, curtly. Fine. 200. I extended my hand. Deal. His grip was cold, clammy, and when he forced a stiff smile, I knew he believed he had bought himself freedom. He had no idea. 200 was only the beginning. The cafe was quiet except for the low hiss of the espresso machine and the faint murmur of customers in the corner. I sat across from Cade, the revised divorce agreement spread neatly between us. His eyes were ringed with dark shadows as though sleep had fled from him the night before. 200, he said gruffly. Not a penny less. I scanned the agreement line by line. The terms were simple. 200 million transferred to me in cash. I would relinquish all further claims. Neither party could reopen disputes. No problem, I said, picking up the pen. My signature flowed across the page with surprising steadiness. His shoulders sagged as if a burden had been lifted. He signed quickly, tore his copy from the file and tucked it into his briefcase. Reina, I hope you'll keep your word. Of course, I said with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. I'm the most trustworthy person you'll ever meet. His expression softened, a faint trace of the man I had once loved showing through. Even though we're divorced, I hope you can live well. I rose from my seat, gathering my bag. Thank you for your blessing. I also hope you and Nova live well. His face blanched at her name. I left before he could recover. Outside, the afternoon sun was blinding, but the air felt sharper, cleaner, as if the very world knew something had shifted. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A notification from the private investigator. A photo appeared on my screen. Cade, arm wrapped around a slender woman outside the obstetrics and gynecology department. Novally. The timestamp was just yesterday, right before he had handed me the agreement with trembling hands. So devoted. So brazen. I saved the photo carefully, then called Ivy. The contract is signed, I told her. 200 secured. Her gasp nearly deafened me. 200? Reina, how? Trade secret. I chuckled. But I need your help again. Get ready. I'm holding a press conference. There was a beat of silence. A press conference? You're really going to make this public? Absolutely. I stared at the photo, my lips curving into a smile. It's time for certain things to see the light. By 3 o'clock, two things happened almost simultaneously. My bank account chimed with the arrival of 200 million yuan. And on Weibo, Cade Song posted a glossy photo. Two figures with their backs to the camera, standing on a balcony at sunset. The caption, "A new beginning. Grateful to all my friends for your support." He couldn't even wait. I opened my own social media account, fingers flying across the screen. Official announcement. Mr. Cade Song and I have mutually agreed to divorce. Thank you all for your care over the past 3 years. The reason for the divorce. His infidelity during our marriage, which resulted in the pregnancy of another woman. For the sake of the child, I have chosen to step aside. I wish them happiness. Attached were the photos taken by the private investigator. Cade and Nova at the hospital entrance, her profile clear, his hand protective on her back. I hit post. Within 10 minutes, the phone in my hand vibrated like a trapped bird. Calls. Messages. Notifications. Reporters asking for interviews, friends sending condolences, strangers sending sympathy or simply gossiping. But the most interesting were the calls from Cade. 8 times in a row I ignored him. On the 9th I answered. Reina, what the hell are you doing? His voice was ragged, fraying around the edges. I'm abiding by the agreement, I said sweetly. It said I wouldn't trouble you over property issues. It never said I couldn't disclose the truth. You're doing this for revenge. I'm simply stating facts, I replied, my tone icy calm. You did cheat. She is pregnant. What part of that is false? You take it down. Now. On what grounds? My voice sharpened. Cade, if you dare to do it, you should dare to bear the consequences. Did you consider the impact on me when you cheated? The line went silent. When he spoke again, his tone was lower, almost pleading. Reina, I know I wronged you. But please delete those posts. I'll compensate you more. 10 million. Okay. Just tell me how much. I leaned back against the wall, letting the silence stretch before answering. 50 million. For reputational damage. 50. His voice cracked. Why don't you just rob a bank? That's exactly what I'm doing, I said coldly. Robbing a scumbag. His breathing grew harsh, furious. Think it over, I added, my voice soft but lethal. You have until tonight. Tomorrow I sit with a reporter and give them everything. Dates. Addresses. Medical records. Asset transfers. All of it. Enough, he snapped. Then after a beat ground out. Fine. 50. I'll give you 50. But you delete everything. No interviews. Deal. When I hung up, a laugh bubbled in my chest. Not the light laugh of amusement, but the sharp laugh of triumph. 200 plus 50. 250 million in total. But this was still only the beginning. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling as the system pulsed again. Target, Cade Song. Tonight's plan. Go to Nova's apartment to discuss strategies for dealing with Reina. Tomorrow's plan. Take Nova to meet his parents, preparing to introduce her as his girlfriend. So eager. So confident. I reached for my phone and typed a message to the private investigator. Help me track them. Every movement, every detail. Don't miss a thing. It was only fair. He had given me a surprise. I would return the favor. And mine would be bigger. The city shimmered at night, its skyline jagged and glittering, each skyscraper a monument to ambition. From my apartment balcony, I could see the lights of the 5-star Grand Regent Hotel, where tomorrow night's Real Estate Chamber of Commerce Gala would be held. It was an event Cade wouldn't miss. Neither would Nova. The system had confirmed it. Tomorrow's agenda. Attend the annual Real Estate Chamber of Commerce Gala. Secure cooperation with Chairman Wei. If he landed Chairman Wei's project, his company's cash flow problems would ease. He would stride out of his scandal unscathed, presenting Nova on his arm as if she were a prize instead of the wrecking ball she was. I wouldn't allow it. I picked up the phone and called Ivy. The chamber gala. Can you get me an invitation? Why? She asked warily. That's Kate's playground. Are you sure you want to walk into the lion's den? Not lion's den, I said softly, watching the glittering hotel in the distance. Arena. And I intend to win. The next evening I stood before the full-length mirror in my bedroom, fastening diamond studs into my ears. The dress I had chosen was a sleek black evening gown that clung to my figure without being vulgar, with a low back that hinted at allure without surrendering dignity. My makeup was precise, scarlet lips, sharp liner, and a confidence that radiated like armor. If Kate thought he could humiliate me in public again, he was in for a rude awakening. At the gala entrance, luxury cars lined the red-carpeted driveway. Men in tailored suits and women in gowns worth fortunes mingled beneath chandeliers dripping with crystal. Waiters moved through the crowd with trays of champagne, and the air hummed with the low thrum of business negotiations disguised as polite conversation. I entered alone, every step measured, the click of my heels echoing against the marble floor. Heads turned. Whispers followed. Some recognized me from the posts I had made. Others simply registered me as someone worth noticing. Across the room I spotted him. Cade stood in a dark blue suit, handsome as ever, confidence radiating from his posture. At his side was Nova, draped in a beige gown that flattered her curves, her belly still small enough to escape most eyes. She smiled brightly, playing the role of perfect companion. For a moment, a shard of memory stabbed through me. 3 years ago I had stood at his side in similar settings, smiling just as brightly, believing I was cherished. I swallowed it down. That woman was dead. Now I was the one holding the knife. Through the system his thoughts flashed across my mind. Tonight I must secure Chairman Wei's project. If successful, the funding problem is solved. Reina's deleted her posts. No more trouble. Nova looks radiant. Everything is falling into place. I smiled. Perfect. Chairman Wei was easy to spot. Silver hair, tailored tuxedo, speaking with a group of younger businessmen near the stage. I crossed the room and approached, extending my hand with a gracious smile. Chairman Wei. I'm Reina Su. His brows rose. Ms. Su. Have we met? No, I admitted. But your reputation precedes you. I've long admired your contributions to the real estate industry. Flattery softened his features. You're too kind. May I ask what brings you here tonight? I'm Kate Song's ex-wife, I said calmly. His expression shifted, surprise flickering across his face. Ex-wife? Yes. We finalized the divorce yesterday. I lowered my voice. May I have a moment with you in private? Intrigued, he nodded, excusing himself from his group. We stepped onto the terrace where the cool night air smelled faintly of rain. Chairman Wei, I began, handing him a folder from my clutch. I heard you're considering collaboration with Song Group. Before you decide, I think you should see this. He adjusted his glasses and scanned the papers. His face darkened. Debt ratio at 80%? And these asset transfers. All true, I confirmed. He's been moving personal funds into hidden accounts to shield from risk. Some of them in his secretary's name. The same secretary he's now parading in public. Chairman Wei's jaw tightened. Are you telling me this out of revenge? I met his gaze steadily. I'm telling you this because I don't want you to suffer losses. A man who betrays his wife will betray his partners. It's only a matter of time. Silence stretched. Then he closed the folder and nodded. Thank you for the warning, Ms. Su. I will consider carefully. We returned to the ballroom where Kate immediately noticed. His eyes narrowed as Chairman Wei strode past him without stopping, without a handshake, without even a word. Kate's smile faltered. He excused himself from his group and stalked toward me, his eyes burning. What did you say to him? He demanded, voice low and furious. I sipped my champagne. Small talk. Why? Don't play games, Reina. He just told me he's reconsidering. That was you. I tilted my head, feigning innocence. Or maybe he just doesn't want to partner with a man whose mistress is already pregnant while his divorce ink is still wet. His face drained of color. Congratulations, by the way. I added, my gaze flicking to Nova across the room. She looks positively glowing. He clenched his jaw. Reina, enough. Why? I asked sweetly. I'm only expressing concern. After all, when love bears fruit so quickly, it's enviable. Around us, whispers began. Heads turned. Eyes lingered on Nova's flat stomach, on Cade's stiff posture, on me standing there with a glass of champagne and a smile sharp enough to cut glass. Nova hurried over, sensing the tension. What's wrong? She asked, slipping her hand through Cade's arm. Nothing, I said before he could speak. I extended my hand. You must be Nova. I'm Reina. Her smile froze, her knuckles whitening on Cade's sleeve. Hello, Miss Sue. Congratulations, I said, glancing at her abdomen. How far along? Her face went pale. Cade's grip on her arm tightened. That's enough, he hissed. I raised my glass in mock toast. To the happy couple. May you enjoy tonight. It's just the beginning after all. As they turned away, I slipped a small object into the clutch Nova carried. A listening device the size of a coin. Let them plot. I would be listening. That night at home I switched on the receiver. Does Reina know? Nova's anxious voice crackled through. She looked like she knew everything. She only knows about the pregnancy, Cade said, his tone clipped. Not the rest. What rest? Nothing. Don't overthink. She's just trying to scare us. I can't shake the feeling she showed up tonight on purpose. Of course she did. But it doesn't matter. We're divorced. She can't touch us. As for Chairman Wei, I'll fix it. I clicked off the receiver, lips curving. There were still things I didn't know. Still secrets he thought hidden. But that was fine. I had time. And the game had only just begun. The morning after the gala, I sat at my dining table, laptop open, sifting through Ivy's latest emails. She had sent me a list of Cade's known properties, his shareholdings, even a breakdown of loans I hadn't been aware of. Every line of text, every number painted the same picture. His empire was crumbling beneath its polished exterior. The system confirmed it. Cade's current state of mind. Annoyed by Chairman Wei's withdrawal, but convinced he can still land other partners. Believes Reina is bluffing. Plans to focus on controlling narrative. He thought he still had control. He thought money, charm, and lies would save him again. A soft chime interrupted my thoughts. A message flashed on my phone from an unknown number. Miss Sue, I'm an employee of Song Real Estate. I have information to share. Can we meet? My heart quickened. For a moment I wondered if it was a trap. But the system pulsed again. Intent. Genuine. Wants to protect himself. I typed back, where? Starbucks downtown. Noon. Blue shirt. The cafe smelled of roasted beans and cinnamon. At a corner table, a man in his 30s sat hunched, fidgeting with his coffee cup. His navy shirt was slightly wrinkled, his expression taut with nerves. When I approached, he stood awkwardly. Ms. Sue? I'm Leon. We shook hands briefly and Saturday, you said you had information. His gaze darted around the cafe before he lowered his voice. I'm the financial manager at Song Real Estate. President Song, he's been cooking the books. Transferring company assets into overseas accounts. If this explodes, he plans to blame it on me. I stilled, my fingers tightening around my cup. Do you have proof? He slid a USB drive across the table. Everything. Financial records, transaction details, shell companies. He even used his secretary's name to open accounts abroad. My chest constricted. That snake. Why tell me this? I asked. Leon's smile was bitter. Because I won't be his scapegoat. And because I know legally you're entitled to half. This money was earned during your marriage. He wants to hide it, but it belongs to you too. My throat tightened. In my past life I had never known. I had accepted scraps while he sat on mountains. How much? I asked quietly. 300 million, Leon whispered. Hidden overseas. The words slammed into me. 300. Half of that was mine by right. I leaned forward. Leon, if this is true, you've just given me a weapon that could destroy him. His eyes flicked nervously. What will you do? I thought of the humiliation, the betrayal, the nights I had cried myself to sleep in another life. I thought of Nova's smug smile, of Cade's cold dismissal. I'll make him pay, I said. Leon exhaled slowly. Then we're on the same side. Just be careful. A man like him when cornered is dangerous. Back home I inserted the USB. My screen filled with spreadsheets, wire transfers, account numbers. The data was damning. Fraudulent investments, siphoned funds, even transactions timed perfectly with Nova's hospital visits. The system pulsed again. Analysis. Commercial fraud. Evidence sufficient for criminal charges. I leaned back, heart pounding. If I handed this to authorities now, Cade would go down, hard. But so would Leon, dragged through the mud as his employee. And the scandal would be over too quickly. But that wasn't enough. I wanted him to fall at his highest point, stripped of everything before the final blow. I called Ivy. Her voice rose in shock as I explained. 300 million? Reina, this isn't just hiding assets. This is a crime. You could bury him with this. I will, I said softly. But not yet. What are you planning? I stared at the glowing files on my screen, my reflection pale but steady in the glass. I'll let him think he's winning. I'll let him walk into his own wedding. Then when he thinks the world is his, I'll cut the ground from beneath his feet. Silence stretched, then Ivy sighed. You've really changed. Yes. My voice was steel. I've finally learned the price of betrayal. That night the private investigator sent me photos. Cade and Nova hand in hand stepping out of a real estate agency. Smiles wide, fingers entwined. In her clutch, the listening device I had planted remained in place. Through it, their voices crackled to life. The villa is perfect, Nova said. 20 million, but worth every penny. We'll host the wedding there, Cade replied. Everything must be perfect. Once the contracts are signed, no one will remember Reina. My nails dug into my palm until they left crescents. No one would remember me. I would make sure they never forgot. The private investigator's footage arrived in neat digital folders, each labeled by date. I sat at my desk scrolling through them, my heart a mix of bitter amusement and cold determination. Cade and Nova shopping for rings. Cade and Nova viewing a 20 million villa, fingers entwined as if the world already belonged to them. Cade and Nova laughing in bridal boutiques, her belly beginning to show beneath layers of satin. Every smile, every gesture was salt in the wounds of my past life. But now instead of bleeding, I sharpened the pain into a blade. I called Ivy. Prepare the lawsuit papers, I told her. When the wedding ends, I want them served within 24 hours. You're really going to ruin their big day, she said, half in awe, half in fear. Not ruin, I corrected. Redefine. The day of the wedding dawned bright, the sky an unmarred blue. From the balcony of my apartment, I could see luxury cars heading toward the Grand Regent Hotel, each vehicle gleaming under the sun. Through the PI's live feed I watched. 300 guests. Flowers worth $500,000. A gown said to cost $100,000. Cade in a white suit, smiling like the king of his empire. Nova radiant, the epitome of a bride stepping into her perfect future. They exchanged vows beneath crystal chandeliers, rings glittering in the light, guests applauding. Cameras flashed, champagne flowed. And in my living room I opened a file on my laptop. The civil lawsuit demanding return of $300 million in concealed marital assets, supported by Leon's damning financial records. By the time they cut the cake, the documents were filed with the court. By the time they toasted their guests, prosecutors had received copies of the fraud evidence. And by the time they retreated to their honeymoon suite, the tax bureau and banking regulators had alerts in their inboxes. The fallout was swift. The very next morning, while Nova still basked in the glow of her new title, law enforcement officers walked into Song Real Estate. Employees watched in stunned silence as files were seized, accounts frozen, and Cade was led away for questioning. I brewed myself a pot of tea and turned on the news. Renowned real estate developer Cade Song is under investigation for commercial fraud and illegal asset transfers. The camera caught him entering the station, face pale, suit rumpled, a far cry from the glowing groom of yesterday. I sipped my tea slowly, the bitterness of the leaves softened by the sweetness of justice. The system whispered in my mind. Target's current thoughts. How did this happen so fast? Did Reina? No, impossible. I was careful. He couldn't know. But I did. And this was only the beginning. That afternoon my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered and a weary voice filtered through. Ms. Sue? This is Nova. I blinked, momentarily surprised. Mrs. Song already calling me? Shouldn't you be on honeymoon? Her voice cracked. Please. Can we meet? I smiled faintly. Of course. Let's meet. The cafe where Nova and I met was half empty, the hum of the espresso machine filling the silence between us. She arrived in oversized sunglasses, her once bright aura dimmed, her steps hurried. When she slid into the seat opposite me, I saw her eyes were swollen, rimmed red from crying. Miss Sue, she began without preamble, her voice trembling. Was it you? Did you report Cade? I stirred my coffee slowly, letting the spoon clink against porcelain. Report him? I simply handed over what I knew. If he did nothing wrong, he has nothing to fear, does he? Her hands tightened around her cup, knuckles whitening. He's already been taken in for questioning. They froze the accounts. Including ours. Our, I echoed softly. Interesting word for a mistress. Color drained from her face. Please. I know I hurt you. But can't you stop now? For the child's sake. I cut her off with a sharp look. Did either of you consider me when you schemed behind my back? When you mocked me at company parties, planned my humiliation, stole what was mine. And now you want mercy because there's a child. Her lips quivered, but no sound came. I leaned forward, lowering my voice until it was sharp as a blade. This isn't about your child. It's about justice. What Cade took from me I'll reclaim with interest. If you're collateral damage, so be it. She flinched, tears pooling. For a fleeting moment I felt a pang of sympathy. But it vanished as quickly as it came. Days later the summons arrived. The civil trial for concealed marital assets. Ivy accompanied me to the courthouse, her steps brisk, her voice steady as she briefed me. With Leon's testimony and the USB records, the evidence is overwhelming. He'll try to argue it's personal income, but it won't hold. In the courtroom, Cade looked like a ghost of himself. Gone was the polished CEO, the arrogant husband. His suit hung loose on his frame, his eyes bloodshot. When he saw me, a storm of emotions flickered. Anger, regret, desperation. The prosecutor's voice rang clear. Did the defendant conceal overseas accounts totaling $300 million during the period of marriage? I stood to testify. Yes. We were married 3 years. I never knew these accounts existed until now. By law, they are marital property. Half is mine. Cade's lawyer sputtered about personal investments, but the weight of evidence crushed every weak defense. Screens lit up with records, transfers, falsified statements. Each one another nail in the coffin of his empire. Through the system his thoughts streamed into me. Raina looked so confident. Did she always have this steel? Damn it. If I could go back I would never have underestimated her. For once his truth was not arrogance but regret. The judge's gavel struck. The court orders the return of 180 million yuan to Ms. Su. Additionally, the defendant is guilty of commercial fraud. 4 years imprisonment, plus a fine of 5 million. The words thundered through the courtroom. Cade slumped in his seat, the fight draining from him. Nova, seated behind him, buried her face in her hands, her sobs echoing against marble walls. I sat still, my pulse steady. From nothing I had risen. From betrayal I had forged power. And this was not the end. That evening Ivy and I shared a quiet drink. She raised her glass. To justice served. I met her toast but said nothing. Inside I felt not triumph but clarity. Money, status, power, these were his obsessions. And now stripped of them he was just a man. A weak, foolish man who thought he could cage me. I had broken free. The news spread like wildfire. By the end of the week, Song real estate stock plummeted. Partners pulled out one after another. Projects collapsed mid-construction and employees resigned en masse. The empire Cade had spent a decade building crumbled in less than 7 days. People whispered my name in the same breath as his downfall. Some called me ruthless. Some called me brilliant. To me it didn't matter. I had never asked for their approval. I only wanted my life back. Nova came to me once more, this time carrying her newborn son in her arms. The baby's cries were soft, fragile, untouched by the sins of his parents. Miss Sue, she whispered, eyes swollen from endless nights of tears. He left us with nothing. Not even formula money. I don't know what to do. For a long moment I studied her. The woman who had been the dagger in my back now looked hollow, defeated. I reached into my bag and pulled out a check. 5 million. Enough to live quietly to raise the child. Her hands trembled as she stared at the paper. Why? After everything. Because the child is innocent, I said softly. And because I've already won. My fight was never with you, Nova. It was with him. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she clutched the baby tighter. Thank you, she whispered. I nodded once, then left her standing there, cradling her son, a fragment of her pride slowly rebuilding. Months passed. With over 300 million secured, I invested not in luxury but in freedom. A cafe in the heart of the city, warm and bright, where the air smelled of roasted beans and buttered pastries. A legal aid foundation for women, offering free counsel to those trapped in marriages like mine. A skills center for single mothers, giving them a way to stand tall without begging. Every brick, every table, every document filed was a quiet rebellion against the woman I used to be, the woman who had once begged for crumbs of affection. Now women came to me not for pity but for guidance. And I gave it freely because I knew what it meant to walk through fire. 5 years later, on the balcony of my cafe's 8th branch, I watched the city lights ripple like stars brought down to earth. My net worth had crossed $1 billion, but wealth was no longer my measure. Freedom was. Happiness was. Reina, Ivy said, stepping beside me with a glass of wine. Do you ever think about him? I smiled faintly. Sometimes. But only as one thinks of a storm long past. It left scars, but it also made me who I am. She raised her glass. To storms survived. I clinked mine against hers. And to lives rebuilt. Not long after, a lawyer delivered an anonymous donation to my foundation. 10 million, earmarked for women's legal support. No name attached, only a note. Your courage inspires me. Keep helping them rise. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to cry. Not out of pain but release. That night, as I walked home under the neon sky, the system's voice echoed one last time. Truth system complete. Host has broken free of betrayal's cycle. From now on, the only truth you need is your own. The hum vanished. Silence filled my mind, but it was not emptiness. It was peace. I tilted my head back, breathing in the city's pulse, its endless possibilities. I was no longer someone's wife, someone's cast-off, someone's shadow. I was Reina Sue, independent, unshakable, reborn. And this time I would live entirely for myself. The end.